Don don de don don de don don de don 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 de don don de don don de don. Calling all sisters and brothers of love, calling all nations and angels above. Calling all sisters and brothers of love, calling all nations and angels above. Oh, 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 hey, hey, yeah, oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 hey, hey, yeah, oh, oh, oh. Let us rise, 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 like a phoenix from the fire, and we will fly, 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 higher and higher and higher, and we will stand, 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 in solidarity for this sacred land, and we will lead, 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 with compassion for all humanity. Oh, 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 hey, hey, yeah, oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 hey, hey, yeah, oh, oh, oh. And we will pray, 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 for love to show the blessed way. And we will hear, 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 the truth that leads us out of fear. And we will really choose to see those we perceive to be our enemy. And we will be set free with the light that shines in you and me. Oh, 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 hey, hey, yeah, oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 hey, hey, yeah, oh, oh, oh. And we will choose to heal the pain we feel, and we will rise above, 'cause we are warriors of love. Oh, 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 hey, hey, yeah, oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 hey, hey, yeah, oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 hey, hey, yeah, oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 hey, hey, yeah, oh, oh, oh.
Greetings. Welcome. I'm Reverend Deborah Johnson, and welcome to our Inner Light Ministries Sunday service gathering. And say thank you to Heather Houston for that beautiful video that just really sets the tone for us. Here at Inner Light, we're here to do the deep work. We're here to do the healing, the transformational work that's necessary for us to unleash the spiritual giants that we really are, so that we can show up in the world in such a way that is empowering, in such a way that is kind, in such a way that is just and environmentally sustainable. We're here to celebrate the sacred interconnectedness of all life. And we say welcome. Wherever it is that you are, whatever time of day that it is, whatever environment that you find yourself in, know that wherever you are is sacred, holy ground. Why? Because you're there. The sanctuary is not a facility. The sanctuary is not a building. The sanctuary is wherever you are, because we're holding the divine within. You know, it's interesting, even that word church that we think of that means this big institutional something. The root word of church is the Greek word ecclesia. Ecclesia. And all ecclesia means is the people. That's all that it is, the spiritual people. So wherever you are is holy ground. And we say thank you and welcome for being with us right now. There are individuals who are in a Zoom watch party right now. You can join in with them if you like, or you can join right after this particular message. They are essentially creating a virtual sanctuary where they can be with each other, see each other, chat. There'll also be some breakout groups so they can talk to each other about the subject of faith that we're talking about all this month. So whenever you're feeling so called, you can join in on that. And whenever you're feeling so moved, you can also make a contribution and donate. That information is right there on your screens, wherever it is that you are. In this month of May, our theme has been faith. And our topic today is resting in faith. Every week, we always offer these spiritual activations. They are concepts, ideas, they are paradigms, they are practices, they're protocols that we invite you to invoke their essence, their spirit, their vibration within your own being. So as they appear on your screen, I'm going to be asking you to read along with me, if it's safe for you to do that, to actually speak it out loud. Resting in faith. I shift my inner activity to align with right action. I harness my energy and direct it towards higher purposes. My feeling tone reflects my awareness of divine order. I go with the flow of life, marveling at its mystery. Releasing my need to control, I surrender from struggling and fighting. I resonate with the goodness everywhere I turn. I focus on potential and use my power to bring it forth. My words are consistent with my highest aspirations. My steps are guided, moving me in the direction of wholeness. My mind and my soul are gently resting in faith. Just breathe that in for a moment. Resting in faith. We've been looking at faith throughout this month from a lot of different directions. Last week, we were talking about faith as it appears in Scripture, Hebrews 11:1, where it says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. In my spirit definitions, it talks about faith is where your intent partners with my divine design. With your intent partners with my divine design. We've been saying that there's nothing blind about faith. That word faith that's used in Scripture is the Greek word pistis, which means knowledge of, assent to, and confidence in certain divine truths, especially those that lead to good works. At this moment, my heart is just overfull with an event that I was at all day yesterday on into the evening at Barrios Unidos, which is an organization that was founded here in Santa Cruz. It's got international tentacles now, that was about ending gang violence. We team up with Barrios Unidos in a number of different things for social justice. one of the things we team up with them is in prison outreach work. They do a profound job in prison outreach. And they did something that is a first of its kind. They had an event there yesterday called Life After Life. Life After Life. And there was some 60 odd people who were formerly incarcerated for life, who are now out. And I would say, if I dare to guesstimate, I'd probably say the average amount of time in was 30 years. Many, much longer, a few a little less, predominantly males, but there were also a significant amount of women who were there too. These were people who had been in California prisons, and primarily California prisons that are in the mid and north area of California where Santa Cruz is. They had a really jamming band that was playing, and the bass player was actually a guy that had been with us in Pleasant Valley State Prison, where we do work. And I tell you, as I was talking to these individuals and listening to their stories, it was the most extraordinary demonstrations of faith in one little square, one little area there on, the corner where Barrios Unidos is in town, in Soquel. We were outside and there was food, there was Mexican food and soul food. We were there, like all day. But to hear the places of consciousness with which these individuals were coming, because none of them had the opportunity or were told that they would ever be out. The vast majority of them didn't even believe it themselves. Some were determined that somehow or another, against all the odds, I'm getting out of here. But what I can tell you is that for every single one of them, part of the reason why they're out is because of their faith. No doubt about it. What I found particularly moving is I'm listening to these stories. They gave awards at the end that were actually in honor, and it made me well up, of this guy, Arnulfo Garcia, who was one of our original guys that we started working with over 20 years ago, who got out after almost 30 years and wound up in a car crash and killed within 6 weeks of being out after 28 years with his sister. And I'm so glad that we had a chance to spend some time with he and the sister, literally just days before he was killed. But this award was in his name. Just a stellar guy, stellar. When I spoke at his funeral, even the warden from San Quentin sent not only condolences, but praises about this gentleman who had become the editor of the San Quentin newspaper. As I'm listening to these stories, and they go the gamut, from people who were incarcerated as juveniles and went all the way through, people who were innocent, people who were guilty. One man stood in front of me and said he was freed through the Innocence Project. And I'm familiar with that project by Brian Stevenson. And I said, how long were you in? He said, 41 years. I said, you were in prison for 41 years and you were innocent? Yes. And then I'm conversing with somebody else in for 41 years who had just been out for 32 days. This is 33 days since their release. All over the gamut. But this consistent thing about the faith. See, faith is an inside job. Faith is not something out there. Faith isn't something you can borrow. You can't buy it. You can't get it. You can't possess it. It is who you are. Faith is like your creativity. Faith is like your power. Faith is like your love. It has to be activated within you. You have to be it. You got to be it. Faith is where your intent partners. To partner is to walk hand in hand with. It's to be in alignment with. It's to give that assent to, where you partner with a divine design that does not give up on you. A divine design that transcends all of the circumstances and all of the conditions. A divine design that says that reconciliation is always possible, that redemption is always possible, that restoration is always possible. I will give you back even the years that the locusts have eaten, where it is never too late. That's part of the divine design. The divine design is designed that no matter what it is that happens, I get fascinated by this, living in the Santa Cruz area of California, where it's basically a redwood forest by the sea. Because of the California droughts that we've had for years on end, California, in particular this area, is really prone to these forest fires. We had some of the worst we've ever had in history the last year. And there's this interesting thing. It's actually called succession, where there are seeds underground that only pop open and release with intense fire. So even the earth herself, we had these unprecedented, something like 1,400 lightning strikes within a couple of weeks last year. And it just set off fires all over California. And nature is so smart that it is designed to regenerate and rejuvenate herself even after the fires. And so it is with you. And so it is with our life. And so it is with our circumstances. It is sometimes the hardest things that we will ever go through that are the greatest character building ones. I'm not saying you want to go through it. Who wants to go through it? But I guarantee you, if you look at your life, the great turning points of your life, the times that you came into your greatest power, the times when you grew into your deepest faith, were some trying times. They were some trying times where your intent partners with my divine design. In my spirit letters, particularly in the second volume of the Letters from the Infinite, my Letters from the Infinite series, that's called Your Deepest Intent. It's really all about intent, our personal intent, our intent as a nation, really profound stuff in there. And it says specifically that our intent has these three components. There's alignment, there's that place where your thoughts and your words and your actions and your deeds, your emotions, all have to come together. The alignment. The other place of intent is your motivation. The why are you doing it? And third, the processes. How are you trying to do it? And when those three things all get together, when those three things are all moving in the same direction, then your deepest intent starts to manifest. And it was so beautiful hearing these stories of people laying out these exact same things, verbatim. One guy even said, look, he says, I was doing all the right things. He says, but what I was saying wasn't matching up with that. He said, and I realized I had to watch what I was saying because what I was saying was contradicting what I was doing. And it was basically neutralizing it all out. Or to hear people say, look, my motivations were wrong. Yeah, I was raking up all these credits and I'm going to all the groups and all of the rest of that. But what was behind me and what was motivating me wasn't pure. What process were you using? Were you just trying to work the system? And every last one of them said the exact same thing that everybody I've ever worked with who was a lifer and got out said. I had to know I was free first. Let's just let that sink in. I had to know that I was free first. Because as long as I was still waiting for somebody else to give me my freedom, I was still a prisoner. Think about this in your own life. You got to know that you're healed first. You can't be waiting and relying on the doctors to tell you that they can heal you. You got to know I'm healed in spite of you. I'm thinking of, it's a true story. I have a first cousin that actually lived with us all through high school, college. My brother actually left him there. He was still living with my parents through law school. And there are these very peculiar heart conditions in my family. All of the males, like the firstborn males of my cousin, even my brother, and all, they've gone through these serious heart things. Some of them have actually died. My mother's two younger siblings both died in their 40s from these heart conditions. So my cousin's about 50 at the time, lawyer, and he's having these deep conversations with me because he's about to undergo this surgery where there's only 3 surgeons in the whole nation that can do this particular surgery, and he's going to have it done at Stanford. He doesn't really know if he's coming out of it or not. I can remember his mother, my mother's mother, sitting at the kitchen table with a declaration like I had never seen her before. And she just looked and she said, "Not my baby. Not my baby. He's getting healed." Her firstborn of 5. So after the surgery, they said, "We've got some good news and some bad news. Which one do you want first?" And he said, "Oh God, well, just give me the bad news first." They said, "The bad news is that the operation failed. It did absolutely nothing that we thought it was going to do." And, needless to say, it was just devastating. I said, "Well, what's the good news?" You now have the heart of a 30-year-old man. The top surgeon says there is no other explanation for this but a miracle. And they paid for him for the next couple of years. He got sent around to different medical schools to be studied. The operation failed. And he walked out with a heart 20 years younger. We can't rely on a bunch of external stuff. Somewhere within you, that place of faith, it's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Can't wait to see it, to believe it. The other way around. When you believe it deeply enough, That's when you'll see it. I keep hearing this over and over and over again from these individuals who had a chance to come up to the mic and to speak and to tell their stories, and how deeply moved I was at their capacity to love, their capacity to care, their capacity to cry. So many of them had been locked up together in different places, and how they had each other's back and trained each other, and they had studied all the nonviolent techniques. And there was one shot that I got that was former Bloods and Crips, which were a couple of the black gangs who were just rivals at each other. They changed all that. They changed all that. When you really believe it, when you really have faith, and there's something greater and that there's something more, no is not an option. It may not work out the way you want it to work out, but no is not an option. No to healing's not an option. No to reconciliation, it's not an option. I don't care how much racism there has been. I don't care how much police brutality. No is not an option. Staying here in this mess, the way that we are doing it, it is not an option. The day after tomorrow, there's going to be marches all over the place. The year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. And I'll be speaking at the local rallies here. And God knows there's so much that has happened since then. Despair is the enemy of faith. Despair is not just the enemy of hope. Despair is the enemy of faith. When you have faith, there is something within you that is willing to look beyond what appears to be the evident. Judge not by the appearances. Any spiritual tradition worth its weight tells you that. Don't judge by the appearances, because it's Maya, it's illusion, it's the trickster energy, however it is you want to call it. Even the word that is used for devil means deceiver, means liar, untruth. What do you believe in? What do you have your faith in? What is it that you keep seeing as possibility? And this idea of resting in it. Resting doesn't mean nothing's going on. In fact, that spirit voice used to try to explain this to me when I used to be quite angry at being awakened at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to get these spirit downloads, these messages, many of which are published in this series, Letters from the Infinite. And that spirit's voice saying is that I have to talk to you then because that's the only time you're not fighting me. It's the only time you're listening. Learn how to rest in your activity. I know that sounds like a contradiction. Listen to what I'm saying. It says, learn how to rest in your activity. And the example that I want to close on that kind of made it sink for me is a story that I love to tell about this woman, Mother Pollard, who was in the congregation with Martin Luther King Jr. during the bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama. So she's an elderly woman and she's walking and walking. When the national news is talking to these people who are doing the boycott, they're talking to this elderly woman and saying, well, you're doing all this walking, aren't you tired? And I love her answer. She said, my feet is tired, but my soul is resting. Yeah. Your feet may be tired, but your soul can be resting. And that's what you get when you're willing to live in faith. Her soul was resting because of the depth of her faith. Breathe that in. Oh, yes. And if your soul is getting stirred and excited about any of this, I want to invite you again to jump in the Zoom party, where you'll have an opportunity to be in breakout groups and talk to other people about this. Like this, pass it on. It's going to be on our YouTube. Subscribe, because there are all kinds of messages like this that are just waiting to get out. And the more that you share it, the more that people hear about it. Check us out on social media to find out about the numerous events and things that are going on, things that you might want to be involved in. And I also ask for your contribution, for your generosity in supporting this ministry, in supporting the things that support you everywhere. You'll see that there are links that are there. You can text to give. You can do it through PayPal. There's all kinds of online. You can even mail your donations in if you like to. But particularly in this time, and I know so many people have been hit really hard economically. We understand that. So whatever it is that you can give, and for those who can afford to give a little bit more, we encourage you to do that as well. As we're starting to move out from some of the COVID requirements and restrictions, still, please be careful. Please be careful. And for those of you who have already been vaccinated, just remember what it was like. So you're not feeling like the vulnerable population, but just remember how it felt when you were, and how much you wanted for other people to be kind and to be considerate. Well, everybody's not vaccinated yet. Okay? So the tables have turned a little bit, and wherever it is that you are, whatever it is that you can do, let's not drop the ball now. Let's continue to do whatever it is that we can to protect each other so we can all make it on the other side. Peace and blessings to you. As we always say, take this consciousness and multiply it.